Hi, my name is Brian Fleming, and I always like to begin my story with when God came into my life and came to my rescue. It was 1995, and I was homeless because I had many, many years of heroin addiction. In 1995, like I said, I was going through such turmoil and such suffering, and I had tried to get my life clean from drugs for many, many years, and nothing seemed to work. I kept relapsing. In 1992, my girlfriend had died. She had passed away from AIDS. And in 1993, my sister had passed away. And then 1994, my mother had passed away. And now here it is, 1995, and my father has cancer and he's dying. And I'm addicted to heroin, homeless, and dying. And I'm the youngest of five. I stayed living with my parents up until their time when they passed away. So that's really all. Like, I had started using drugs when I was 10 years old. I was using heroin when I was 16 until probably like 32. But my life had always been drug addiction. So I didn't really know any other way and no other way of how to live, you know. But like I said, it was here in 1995 when I was going through such turmoil and such suffering. And I was living in the park in the Bronx, New York. I'm from New York City. When friends came by the park and saw me in that condition and asked me if I wanted to go to the hospital. And I didn't really want to go, but I was suffering so much that I went. And then when I was in the hospital, I stayed there like 10 days going through heroin withdrawal, which was very, very bad. And as you get older, it gets harder to do that. So I stayed there for 10 days, and then I went to a drug rehab, and that was for 28 days. While I was in that rehab, I was so sick and I looked so bad that they literally were very worried about me. And I would pace the floors back and forth all night, not being able to sleep and suffering so much. But then it was time for me to leave the rehab, and I had nowhere to go. And I didn't want to go back to drugs. I really wanted to stop. So they made me go to a halfway house in upstate New York. So I went, and when I was up there, I had a rosary that I would carry on me. And I've always been Catholic, went to Catholic school all my life, but really didn't know a lot about my faith. But I had this rosary, and I remember being in that halfway house, and I would sneak away and I would pray the rosary and pray it like I never prayed it before, like with my heart. Really crying out to the Blessed Mother to come and help me. And I felt things starting to happen in my life, things starting to stir inside me. And when it was time to leave the halfway house, I had nowhere to go. While I was up there, my dad passed away. So now I'm on my own. I'm 33, which is a very significant age, the age of Jesus Christ crucified, right? And it was literally, the suffering was so intense that I wanted to die myself. Like, I was in that state of mind. But like I said, when I was praying the rosary, things started stirring in me, and I started to really discover my faith for the first time in my life. And I went back to church, and it wasn't just on Sunday. I went to church every day. And things really started to happen inside of me. And now I didn't want to go back to the Bronx, New York, where I was from, because there was nothing but destruction there. So I stayed in upstate New York. And I got an apartment up there with some help with paying the rent. And I got a job, I got stable. And I remember being in my apartment all by myself, all alone, with just incredible suffering, with the amount of loss, with all the deaths, and with the destruction of my life, because I had been on drugs all my life. And I didn't know anything. And here I was in my apartment all alone, and now I have to grow up. I have to be a man, I have to make a living, and so on. But I remember the such intimate moments in prayer with the Blessed Mother in that apartment. And I would have a picture of her, and I would just stare at her and talk to her like a little boy. And I actually felt the comfort and the love of my mother, of the Blessed Mother. And it's funny how things happen, because almost immediately, she led me right to Jesus in the Eucharist. I had a job up there, and I remember coming home from work one day, and all of a sudden, I hadn't planned in my mind or anything, but my car just automatically turned into this church called the Immaculate Conception. And I went in there, and there was Eucharistic adoration going on. Now, again, I've been to Catholic school all my life, and I knew a little bit about the Eucharist, not a whole lot. But I remember walking in this church and seeing Jesus in the monstrance, And everybody in reverence on their knees, particularly the men, which really affected me as a man, on their knees with a rosary in front of the Eucharist. So I went, I knelt in front of the monstrance, and I was looking at the Eucharist, and it hit me so hard. Like, I just couldn't believe that this is God. Like, this is God right here. And like I said, I had made many mistakes, and also my own weaknesses, my own faults, and my own sin, my own sinfulness led to a lot of purgation, a lot of purification, but a lot of growth in the spiritual life, So I'm here today as a product of God's divine mercy.